saw her standing outside the grocery store on a Tuesday afternoon, and she looked directly at me like she'd been waiting. I'd never seen this woman before in my life. Middle-aged, worn-looking, with tired eyes, and a Target bag in one hand. She stepped toward me as I was loading groceries into my car, and something about her expression made me stop. "You need to know something about your husband," she said. Just like that. No introduction, no apology for being a complete stranger. "His name is Michael, right? Tall guy, works in IT?" My first instinct was to think she was crazy, genuinely unhinged. I remember my hand freezing on the car door, one bag of groceries still in the crook of my arm. The November wind was sharp that day, and I could feel it cutting through my sweater. I didn't respond at first, just stared at her, waiting for the punchline or the moment she'd ask for money. "He's been lying to you," she continued, and her voice cracked a little. "For months, maybe longer. I know because I was there. I saw things. And I'm telling you now because I have a daughter your age, and if someone knew something, I'd want them to tell me." Then she walked away, just turned and disappeared into the parking lot, and I never got her name or any explanation. I stood there for what felt like 5 minutes, holding that bag of groceries, feeling completely insane. Who does that? Who approaches a stranger in a parking lot and makes an accusation like that without any context? I should probably rewind and explain what my life actually looked like before that moment. Because it matters. It matters that everything felt solid and right, and like I'd finally earned the happiness I was living in. My name is Ashley, and I'm 34 years old. Michael and I have been married for 8 years, together for 11. We met in college, both business majors, and honestly, I thought I'd won the lottery with him. He's the kind of guy who remembers your coffee order, who texts you stupid memes at work, who does the dishes without being asked. He's not jealous or controlling. He makes decent money, around $120,000 a year in his position as a senior systems analyst at a mid-sized tech company downtown. We own a 3-bedroom suburban home in Arlington, about 20 minutes from the city, with a small backyard and a mortgage we could actually manage. The house was our big dream. We'd saved for 5 years, scraped together the down payment, dealt with inspections and appraisals, and all that nightmare paperwork. It closed in 2019, right before everything went insane with the pandemic. I remember standing in our empty living room that first night, and Michael picked me up and spun me around, and I felt like we'd actually made it, like we were adults who had their life together. I work as a graphic designer for a marketing firm, freelance mostly, so I can take on as much or as little as I need. That flexibility was huge when we were trying to get the house. I'd pull 15-hour days on projects. Michael would do his thing at the office, and we'd meet up in the evenings and feel like we were building something real. We'd cook dinner together on weekends, watch stupid reality TV, plan out the kitchen renovation we'd never quite get around to. He's not one of those guys who's constantly on his phone. Or at least, he wasn't. He'd leave it on the kitchen counter sometimes, face down. He'd be working late. Tech jobs require it. Server issues at midnight. Crisis calls on weekends. But he always told me where he was going. Always texted me updates. We had that kind of relationship where trust was just there. Not something we had to discuss or negotiate. It was the foundation. My mom loved him. My best friend Jennifer loved him. His family adored me. His mom, Karen, was the kind of mother-in-law you actually wanted to see. She'd come over for Sunday dinners and bring homemade lasagna, and she'd compliment my work, and she never made those weird passive-aggressive comments that monster-in-laws are famous for. His dad, Tom, taught Michael everything about cars, and they'd spend Saturday mornings tinkering in the garage. It was the kind of family dynamic that made me feel like I'd been grafted into something good and solid. We didn't have kids yet. That was the plan for next year, once we'd paid down some of the mortgage, and I'd wrapped up a few major contracts. We'd talked about it 1,000 times. Michael wanted 2 kids. He'd said he wanted a daughter first, then a son. He'd paint the nursery himself, instead of hiring someone. He'd be the dad who coaches Little League. The last few months before that parking lot encounter had been normal. Good, even. Michael had gotten a promotion in August, a team lead position, which came with a raise. We celebrated by taking a long weekend in October to the Outer Banks. We rented a beach house, walked on the shore, made love like we were still newlyweds. He bought me a necklace at this little antique shop, a vintage piece with a tiny compass, and he said it was because I'd always guided him toward better things. I wore it constantly. Work was solid. We had 2 trips planned for next year: his parents' anniversary cruise in June, and my family reunion in South Carolina in July. My credit score was 762. His was better. We were the kind of couple that financial advisors point to as an example of doing it right. I know that sounds obnoxious, but it's true. So when that woman in the parking lot told me my husband was lying to me, my first response was actually anger. Not fear. Anger. Because how dare she? How dare she come up to me with this vague accusation and no actual information and try to poison what I had? What Michael and I had built? I drove home that day and didn't mention it to him. I told myself it was nothing. The ramblings of someone unwell, someone who had confused Michael with someone else, or who was acting out some kind of bizarre vendetta against a stranger. I unloaded the groceries, put them away, and tried to push the whole thing out of my head. But I couldn't. That night, lying next to him in bed, he was already asleep, one arm across my waist, his breathing deep and even. I found myself actually studying his face in the dark. Looking for what? I don't know. A tell. A sign that something was rotting beneath the surface. The next morning, he left for work at 7:15 a.m., same as always. He kissed my forehead while I was still in bed. "Love you," he said. "Got a big meeting at 9, but I should be home by 6. I watched him leave, listened to his car pull out of the driveway, and then I did something I'd never done before in our entire relationship. I picked up his laptop from his desk and opened it. His laptop opened without a password. That was the first shock, the realization that he didn't think he needed to hide anything from me. Or maybe he was just lazy. Or maybe the password was something I'd never guess, and he genuinely didn't care if I looked. I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee going cold beside me, and I started clicking through his files. Emails first. Work stuff. Server updates, team meetings, a few forwarded jokes from his coworkers. Normal. I scrolled through months of correspondence, looking for what? I didn't know. Some smoking gun, some proof that woman was lying. Then I found the folder. It wasn't hidden, wasn't encrypted. It was just sitting there in his documents, labeled photography. Michael doesn't take photographs. He's not interested in photography. We have a nice DSLR that his parents gave us for our anniversary 3 years ago, and it's been sitting in the hall closet untouched. I clicked it open. My hands started shaking before I even understood what I was looking at. Photos of a woman, dozens of them. A blonde woman, maybe 30, in a coffee shop, in a car, at some kind of restaurant. And then other photos, her in a hotel room, her in a bed, her naked. I closed the laptop so hard I thought the screen might crack. I couldn't breathe. Literally couldn't get air into my lungs. I stood up from the table and walked to the sink and just stood there, staring at the window above it, watching the November trees sway in the wind. My reflection stared back at me. A woman I didn't recognize anymore. A woman who'd been made a fool of. The photos weren't artistic. They weren't some weird thing he'd hidden away out of shame. They were documentation, proof, evidence of something he wanted to keep, to look at, to remember. I went back to the laptop. I opened the folder again because I needed to know how many there were, how long this had been going on. The folder properties said it had been created in March. March. 8 months of this. 8 months of him coming home to me, kissing my forehead, saying I love you, while he had photographs of another woman memorized in his laptop. I found the emails next. Gmail, separate account. It took me a minute to figure out the password, his mother's maiden name, and the year he was born. So careful, Michael. So thoughtful. Except not. Her name was Lindsay. She worked at his company, same office building, different floor. They'd met at some company event in February. He'd asked her out for coffee in March. They'd been sleeping together since April. The emails were brutal in their ordinariness. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. That was incredible. I love you. Him saying those words to her. Him using the same language he used with me, the same affection, the same promises. There was a thread from last week. Lindsay asking when he was going to leave me. Michael saying he needed more time, that he was still figuring things out, that he didn't want to hurt me unnecessarily. Hurt me unnecessarily, as if there was a necessary way to do it. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark kitchen for what might have been an hour. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I felt something worse, a kind of complete disconnection from my own body, like I was watching someone else sit at that table, watching someone else absorb the fact that her entire life was a lie. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. Running late. Server issue. Probably won't be home until 8. Love you, babe. Love you, babe. Like it meant nothing. Like it had never meant anything. I didn't respond. I went upstairs to our bedroom, our bed, the one where I'd lain last night with my hand on his chest, feeling his heartbeat, feeling safe, and I lay down on top of the comforter and stared at the ceiling. The thing nobody tells you about discovering infidelity is that the knowledge doesn't hit you all at once. It hits you in waves. First, there's the shock. Then there's the anger. Then there's the humiliation. Then you start thinking about the practical details. The house, the mortgage, whether he'll want to fight for custody of kids we don't even have yet. And underneath all of it, there's this terrible, creeping shame, like maybe you did something to deserve it. Like maybe you weren't enough. I called Jennifer at 2 p.m., my best friend since college, the person who'd been in our wedding, who'd held my hand during my dad's funeral, who knew me better than anyone except Michael. Ash? She picked up on the second ring. I could hear her kids in the background, the chaos of her life, and I wanted to scream at her to appreciate it, to hold on to it, because everything can disappear in an instant. What's wrong? You sound weird. Michael's cheating on me, I said. Just like that. No preamble, no build-up. The words came out flat, like I was reading from a script. There was a pause. What? His laptop. He has pictures, emails. It's been going on for 8 months, Jennifer. 8 months. Oh my God. I heard her telling her husband she'd call him back, and then she was in her car. I could tell by the sound. I'm coming over. Don't do anything. Don't call him. Don't text him. Don't. Just wait for me. She was there in 20 minutes, speeding through traffic in her minivan like she was driving to save my life, which in a way, she was. Jennifer walked into my house like she owned it, took one look at my face, and pulled me into a hug that broke something in me. I started crying then. Big, ugly, gasping sobs that came from somewhere deep in my chest, from the part of me that had known, somehow, that something was wrong. That woman in the parking lot had seen something I couldn't see, and I'd wanted so badly to believe she was crazy. Show me, Jennifer said. She sat down at the kitchen table, and I opened the laptop again. I showed her the photos, the emails, the timeline. Her face got darker with each click. That fucking asshole, she whispered. And then, louder. That fucking asshole, Ashley. This is not your fault. Do you understand me? This is not about you. How do you know? I asked. How do you know I didn't? Because I know you, and I know Michael, and he's a selfish piece of shit who made a choice. That's on him, not you. But that's not how shame works, is it? Shame doesn't listen to reason. Shame whispers that you should have known, should have suspected, should have been enough to keep him home. We sat in that kitchen as the afternoon light shifted, and Jennifer helped me make a list. A list of things I needed to do. Find a divorce attorney, get copies of all our financial documents, check our credit cards for unauthorized charges, change the passwords on my email and phone accounts. Don't let him know I know until I had a lawyer and a plan. You need to be smart about this, Jennifer said. And she was right. I needed to think like the woman in the parking lot had thought. With clarity, with purpose, with the understanding that the person you loved had already decided you weren't worth being honest with. Michael came home at 8:47 p.m. He walked in like he always did, loosening his tie, and he kissed me on the cheek like he always did. And he said, "Rough day," like he always did. I didn't say anything. I just looked at him, really looked at him, and I tried to find the man I'd married in his face. The man who'd spun me around in our empty living room. The man who'd bought me a compass necklace and said I guided him toward better things. He was still in there somewhere, but so was the man who'd taken photographs of another woman. They were the same person. "You okay?" he asked, and his face showed concern. Such good acting. Such perfect performance. "Fine," I said. "Just tired." He nodded and headed upstairs to change. I stayed in the kitchen, my hands on the table, and I felt something shift inside me, not toward him, away from him. The woman I'd been that morning, the one who still believed in him, was gone. Now I needed a lawyer. I called David Chen on a Wednesday morning. Jennifer had given me his number, her cousin's friend, a divorce attorney who specialized in infidelity cases and didn't take any bullshit. His office was downtown, on the 23rd floor of a glass building that smelled like expensive leather and regret. "Walk me through the timeline," David said. He was maybe 50, with reading glasses on a chain and a yellow legal pad. His office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, and I could see my house from here. Not really, but the distance made everything feel smaller, more manageable. "When did you discover the affair?" "Tuesday. Yesterday, technically. I found his laptop, pictures, emails, everything." "Have you confronted him?" "No. He came home like nothing happened. I didn't say anything." David nodded slowly. "Good. That's actually good. Has he mentioned anything about wanting a separation or divorce?" "Not to me." "But to her?" He gestured at my phone, where I'd forwarded copies of the emails to his secure account. "The girlfriend, Lindsay. She's asking when he's going to leave you. He's avoiding the question." "Yeah." "Okay. Here's what we need to do immediately. First, I need you to document everything. Every financial account, every credit card, every asset. Your 401k, his 401k, the house deed, the mortgage. You need to know exactly what you have before he realizes you know and tries to hide it. Infidelity doesn't matter in Virginia for the divorce settlement, but marital misconduct and asset concealment, that matters." I felt my stomach drop. I hadn't even thought about the house yet. The house we'd saved for 5 years to buy. The house where I'd imagined our nursery, where Michael was going to paint the walls himself. "What about the house?" I asked. "It's marital property, purchased during the marriage with joint funds. In a divorce, Virginia splits assets equitably, not necessarily 50-50, but fairly. You'll likely retain a portion of the equity, but he might fight you on it. Some men think infidelity gets them a pass on their financial obligations. It doesn't, but they try. And if he contests it? Then we go to court. But first, we try mediation. Most divorces settle before trial. It's cheaper, faster, and less traumatic." He paused. "Less public, I should say. Once you file, everything becomes a matter of record. Friends, family, coworkers, they'll know. You need to be prepared for that." I wasn't prepared. I didn't think I'd ever be prepared for that. "I need you to gather the documents today," David continued. "Account statements, tax returns, the mortgage paperwork, insurance policies, everything. I'll send you a checklist. Once I have that, we'll file for divorce. You'll serve him with papers. Then we negotiate. When do I tell him I know?" "Not yet. Not until after he's been served. The moment he knows you're serious about divorce, he'll lawyer up, and negotiations get harder. Let him think you're still in the dark." So I went home and became an actress in my own marriage. Michael came home at 6, just like he said he would. He kissed me. He asked about my day. We ordered Thai food and watched a show, and I sat next to him on the couch, like my entire world hadn't just imploded. That night, while he slept, I went through our files. I found the mortgage documents, the deed with both our names on it, the home insurance policy, our joint bank statements. I found his 401k statements showing $300,000 in retirement savings. I found the car titles. His car in his name, my car in mine. I found credit card statements, tax returns, property tax bills, everything I needed to dismantle our life. David had me bring the documents to his office on Friday. I took a personal day, told Michael I had a client emergency, and drove downtown with a folder full of evidence that my marriage was a financial arrangement he'd been systematically betraying. "This is thorough," David said, spreading the papers across his desk. "Very thorough. Okay, here's the picture. Marital assets total approximately $840,000. That includes the house equity. You owe about $220,000 on a property worth maybe $600. You've got $70,000 in joint savings. His 401k is $300,000. Your freelance business, how much do you have in savings from that?" "About $40,000. Okay, so the marital estate is roughly $840,000. In an equitable split, you're looking at $420,000 in assets, roughly, but you have to account for debt, the mortgage, any credit cards, and you need to think about spousal support. You make less than he does. You could argue for temporary spousal support while the divorce is finalized, and possibly permanent support depending on the length of the marriage and your earning capacity." 8 years. We'd been married 8 years. 8 years of my life, and now it was being boiled down to financial categories in legal terms. "The house is the big asset," David continued. "If you want to keep it, we can argue that you've been the primary homemaker. You manage the household. You're the one who wanted it. And that you should retain it with a buyout for his equity. That's about $200,000. You'd need to refinance the mortgage in your name alone. Can you qualify for that on your freelance income?" I didn't know. I'd never thought about qualifying for a mortgage by myself. Michael and I had always been a unit. "I'll look into it," I said. "Do that. And in the meantime, I'm drafting the petition. We'll file Monday. Tuesday at the latest, he gets served with papers. That's when everything changes." Monday came. I drove Michael to work like always. He kissed me goodbye like always. And while he was sitting in his office, probably emailing Lindsay about lunch plans, a process server was waiting in my driveway with an envelope containing the legal dissolution of our marriage. I didn't tell him I knew. I let him come home that evening and find the papers on the kitchen counter, the way David had instructed. Let him have that moment of shock, that realization that I wasn't the woman he thought I was, that I was someone who could act, who could plan, who could protect herself. He walked in at 6:15, loosening his tie, and stopped dead when he saw the envelope. "What is this?" His voice was very quiet. "Your divorce petition," I said. I was standing at the sink, hands steady, voice steady. I'd practiced this. "I know about Lindsay. I know about the pictures, the emails, everything. And I'm not going to sit around while you decide what you want to do about it." His face went through 3 colors in about 5 seconds. Shock, then rage, then something that looked like calculation. "Ashley, come on. This is crazy. We can talk about this. I made a mistake. It didn't mean anything." "It meant something to you when you were taking the pictures," I said. "It meant something when you were telling her you loved her." "That was different. That was just, she was just what? Just someone you were fucking? Just someone you were lying to me about every single day? Michael, you told me you loved me. You told me I guided you toward better things. And you were photographing her." He reached for me, actually reached across the kitchen counter, like he was going to grab my arm, and I stepped back. "Don't," I said. "Don't touch me." He dropped his hand. "I don't want a divorce." "I don't care what you want. My lawyer will contact your lawyer. We can do this amicably, or we can do it in court. But we're doing it. I can fix this. I can break it off with her. I can—" "No, you can't. Because I don't trust you, and I don't want to fix this. I want you to leave." He stared at me like I was someone he'd never met. Maybe I was. Maybe the woman he'd married. The one who loved him blindly, who believed in him completely. Maybe she was gone. Maybe that woman had died the moment he took those photographs. "I'm not leaving my house," he said. "Then I'll have the court order you to. You want to do this the hard way, Michael? I have screenshots. I have your emails. I have a folder of photographs that I can show to your HR department, to your mother, to anyone who asks. You want to fight me on this? His face hardened. You're being a bitch. Probably, I said. But I'm a bitch who's going to own this house and half of everything we built together. So pack a bag and go to a hotel, or call your girlfriend and see if she'll let you crash on her couch. Either way, you have until tomorrow morning to be gone. He grabbed his keys and left without another word. I heard his car pull out of the driveway, and I sat down at the kitchen table and started shaking. Not from fear or sadness, from relief. From the terrible, guilty knowledge that I'd just done the thing that was going to save me. The divorce took 4 months. Michael tried to fight me on the house, claiming he should get to keep it because he'd be the primary earner. His lawyer was aggressive, made arguments about my unstable freelance income, and suggested I was being vindictive. But I had David, and David was relentless. We settled 2 weeks before the trial date was supposed to start. Michael got $400,000 in assets, his 401k, his car, half of the joint savings. I got the house, my business accounts, my car, and $1,800 a month in spousal support for the next 2 years. The judge also ordered him to pay for my attorney's fees because his infidelity and his attempts to hide assets had made the divorce contentious. I remember sitting in the courthouse hallway after the final hearing, holding the signed decree, and feeling absolutely nothing. Not happy, not sad, just empty, like someone had reached into my chest and scooped out everything that made me feel anything at all. Jennifer came with me to the courthouse. She'd taken the day off work, sat through the entire hearing, held my hand when the judge read the final ruling. When we walked out into the Arlington sunshine, she squeezed my shoulder. "You did it," she said. "You actually did it." "I did what I had to do," I said. But that wasn't quite true, was it? I did more than that. I did what that woman in the grocery store parking lot had somehow known I was capable of doing. I'd taken the information she gave me, the terrible, unsolicited information, and I'd turned it into power. I never saw her again. I've looked for her sometimes, in parking lots and grocery stores, in the faces of strangers at the coffee shop. I wanted to thank her. I wanted to ask her how she'd known. But maybe that was the point. Maybe some people enter your life not to answer your questions, but to ask you the one that matters. What are you willing to do to protect yourself? The house is mine now. I refinanced it in my name alone, and my credit score actually went up during the divorce process. David said it was because I was paying my bills on time and showing financial responsibility. I painted the master bedroom a soft blue. I'm not sure why I chose blue. Maybe because it's the opposite of the red anger I felt every time I thought about Michael. Michael married Lindsay 8 months after the divorce was finalized. I know because Jennifer told me after she saw it on Facebook. I didn't feel anything about that either. He was someone else's problem now. But sometimes, late at night, I think about that woman in the parking lot. I think about how she saw something in me that day, some capacity for strength or survival, and she decided to give me a gift. Not a kind gift, not a gentle one, but a gift nonetheless. She told me the truth about my husband, and that truth became the foundation for rebuilding a life that was actually mine. The stranger was right about everything, but she was also right about something else, something she never said out loud. She was right that I could survive this. And I did.